Welcome to the Wounded Leadership Podcast, Stories from the Wounded. I'm your host, Dr. Matthew Tanner, the founder of Wounded Leadership Ministries. You know, the calling to shepherd God's church brings some of life's greatest joys and adventures. Yet this calling also comes with profound challenges. Many church leaders face those challenges in silence. Nearly every pastor will experience the pain of unjustified termination or forced resignation at least once in their ministry journey. On this podcast, we create a safe place where wounded leaders can share their stories, find community, and discover pathways toward healing and a renewed purpose. Each episode will bring honest conversations with those who have walked through the valley of ministerial suffering and emerged stronger on the other side. Whether you're currently serving in ministry, recovering from church trauma yourself, or simply want to better understand the challenges that are facing today's church leaders, this podcast is for you. It will offer biblical wisdom, practical strategies, and genuine hope. Now let's begin today's conversation. Welcome to Wounded Leadership Stories from the Wounded podcast. I'm excited today to have a good friend of mine, at least he lets me think that, good friend of mine, Roderick Sweet, Director of Freedom on the Inside program that I teach with him. Roderick, I just want you to introduce yourself to the listeners. Everybody's out here. And tell us about yourself, and then we'll dive into your story.
Well, hello. My name is Roderick Sweet. As you said, I'm the director of Freedom on the Inside, which is a education program here in Missouri. Excuse me. And what we do is lead a fully accredited 4.5-year Bachelor's of Science degree in Biblical Studies, where I am director, teach Old Testament and preaching theology. You teach New Testament counseling, and we're both just all around whatever we need to do to get the program continuing.
Absolutely.
I just recently started pastoring First Baptist Church of Louisiana, Missouri, which is a unique situation where it is a predominantly white congregation, and I am not predominantly white, as you can tell.
Only in the beard.
Only in the beard. I am also in 2026 wrapping up my PhD studies. I am currently writing my dissertation. Thankfully, that project met with approval toward the end of 2025.
Excellent.
And so by this time next year, I will be Dr. Sweet. And no, you don't have to call me that, but there are some people who will.
You know what I'm going to call you.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I'm not going to say it on the podcast.
Yeah,
you know what I'm going to call you. So, and in writing your dissertation, that's why the before you started your dissertation, this was all
this was all
darker.
This was all darker and a lot shorter. I had more hair, and I'm starting to notice as we do the podcast, the gray is creeping in.
Right.
I'm surrounded by books.
For writing a doctorate.
Yeah.
That's what it does to you.
It drains you.
So, well, we sitting around in the office, I've shared a lot of my story. I've heard a lot of your story, and we talked about that, why you fit this podcast. This is, Stories from the Wounded. You've been in ministry for a long time. And so you've had that wounded story. So that's what we're here about today, is just tell us about that story. I've heard it, and I wanted the listeners to hear it as well, and also the story of healing. So with that said, take us back. Take us back to the beginning, not the Genesis beginning. You are an Old Testament guy, so don't take us all the way back that far. But take us back to where it all started, and let's just share your story about how you were wounded and how God healed you, man.
Sure. So it started for me back in 1994. My pastor of a church where I'd been preaching for a while, but I'd just gotten licensed and ordained under him. All of a sudden, one Sunday we get to church, he's gone. We don't know what happened. He and his family packed up for Mississippi and didn't tell us anything. So I got thrusted into, because I was the only preacher, so I got thrusted into being the lead pastor.
Wow.
No
so
real pastoral. Yeah. No real pastoral experience. And for the first couple of weeks, I thought everything was going great, right? And finally, the deacons and I finally got everything squared away as far as the books and stuff, financials are concerned, and go to make our second or third deposit after this all takes place, only to find out what we thought we had in the bank account wasn't actually in the bank account. And the rent is coming due on the facility because we're renting a building. And if I didn't tell anybody, I'm a native Houstonian, thus the Texas flag behind me. So this is all happening in a neighborhood called Hiram Clark off of a street called Anderson Road, right? Discovered that we don't have enough money to pay rent. Come back and start talking with the deacons. And instead of the deacons rallying around the pastor and the pastor rallying with the deacons and us rallying the church together to try to figure out how to make next month's rent and how to make this continue to work and what to do about the missing funds,
Yeah.
several of the deacons resign their position. They leave, take several families with them, and the other families who are staying behind are looking to me for leadership. So within that time, I found a smaller facility, something that we can afford,
Yeah.
contact the landlord, explained everything. I mean, I was an open book, just explained everything to him. And he agreed to let us out of the lease to go to the newer facility. But he and his brother owned a business right across the street from this building where we were having church. And
Uh-huh.
he didn't tell his brother. Yeah, they owned an electrical business. And so the day that we showed up, few of the men and I showed up, I'm in my young 20s, man, and
Yeah.
we show up to get things out of the church, move the piano, the
Move everything
organ, the
over.
benches. Actually, to pay the money for him to let us out, we sold all those nice oak benches. We sold them, those pews. We sold them to
Wow.
pay him the money that he had requested to get out of the lease. And so what we did was we went to Target and bought a bunch of folding chairs.
Yeah.
This is how hurt we were financially. He comes over, sees what we're doing. He and I are talking, and he wants more money. And I'm trying to explain to him
Like,
we
we don't
don't
have it.
have it. If I remember correctly, I was an assistant manager at Little Caesars.
Hmm.
And back then minimum wage was 4.25 an hour.
Yeah.
And I made $8 an hour as as a shift manager. Right?
Big money.
Big money, brother. I mean, big money. And so we paid him $4 or $5,000 to get out of the lease. And he's wanting another $3,000 or $4,000. And it's like, yeah, no, I don't
Yeah.
have it.
Yeah. There's no way.
So the men of the church, they're scraping as much as they can and calling, moving stuff. And as I turned to walk away and walk back because I thought the conversation was over. Next thing I know, I'm getting up off the ground. My shirt is covered in blood. I've got a 2.5, 3 inch gash in the back of my head. The police were called. I, I'm in handcuffs. So they're picking me up. And yeah, what he did was his brother called the cops and said we were robbing the church. Brother comes over, hits me in the head with a lead pipe, lays me out cold.
Wow.
The men of the church come, they start yelling, shoving, pushing, trying to protect
Yeah.
me. The cops show up. All they see is a guy laid out. They don't know what's going on. Thankfully,
Right.
the three officers that showed up had cooler heads and said,
Let's figure this out first.
let's talk what's going on. The men of our church told them, everything. I'm paramedics are called. I'm getting cleaned up.
Yeah.
And finally, they take me out of the handcuffs and they just ask one question because the gentleman and his brother said, we changed the locks on the door and the keys are in my pocket.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, then how did I get in?
Yeah.
So, which is them saying I broke in. So I just walked over to the door, stuck the key in the door, locked the door, then unlocked the door. And the sergeant in charge, I remember his name, but I won't say his name because I don't have permission to say his
Sure.
name. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years. Says to them, yeah, you're lying. This guy has keys. What's really going on?
Yeah.
And so charges are filed. I get rushed to
Against the brother.
against the brother. I get rushed to the hospital. I get 138 stitches in the back of my head, which to make you laugh, not really. This has been the source of my migraines ever since.
Well, sure.
Never suffered migraines until that
That'll
happened.
do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so we would eventually move out of that place. I held that church together for a few months and then dissolved. The church had to go through all the state processes to dissolve the church.
Yeah.
That guy, both the gentleman and his brother, I'm a glutton for punishment, would later become my parents and I landlord as we were trying to buy a house. Dad didn't have the greatest credit to buy a house,
Right.
couldn't use the Montgomery GI Bill. That's a story for another day.
Sure.
But this guy owned a bunch of houses in the Hiram Clark area.
Yeah.
We would eventually, unbeknownst to me and my mom at the time, we would eventually live in one of this guy's houses. And shortly before my dad passes away, my mom, my dad, myself, and the gentleman sit down and just try to figure out, hey, why'd you clock our son in the head with a
Yeah.
lead pipe? And he apologized for his
Wow.
brother's actions and then apologized for trying to basically, my words, extort more money out of us.
Sure.
And it turns out that he wasn't a Christian. But after that incident, him and his family had started attending one of the local mega churches in the area. And he had become a Christian. That began a friendship between the two of us. His brother and I never reconciled. His brother and I never talked. But he and I began a friendship that spanned until his death in early 2000.
Wow.
Most of the men who were at that church that stayed, the deacons, I've lost touch with most of them. I've lost touch with a lot of the members who were there. We're talking about maybe 65 families when all of this started.
Mm.
So I lost touch with most of them, but the ones that I've stayed in touch with over the years, we're talking now 38 years later,
Wow.
all still go to church, all still actively involved in that same little neighborhood at different churches in that neighborhood,
Yeah.
which was it turns out to have been a blessing because it put me on a path and it put me on a trajectory that I'm on today. I didn't know enough about rental practices from the church and church insurance and things of those natures. So I sought out that information. I sought out that kind of stuff. I didn't know how to write a church constitution and bylaws, so I learned how to do that. And from there, I became youth pastor at a large church in Houston. And I feel that I was unjustly fired
Okay. Let's lead into that.
7 months in, and this is the church where I met my wife. So 7 months in to being youth pastor at this church, I'm full-time staff making $16,000 a year.
Right.
Right, youth pastor salary.
So this is right after. So how much time after this church shuts down
8
do you
months.
go in? Not very
8
long.
months. Not
You're
very long.
you're thrust into this lead
Mm-hmm.
pastor position.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we just heard about that. It blows up, it shuts down. You move into this youth pastor position, not to speak what's in your mind, but thinking, okay, I'm not the lead guy. I just want to learn some things. So you find yourself in this youth position.
Yeah. And that's basically it. A high school friend was the assistant pastor, knew that I wanted to go and get some education. I'd been pursuing an associate's degree that no longer exists through Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary.
Yeah.
They got rid of that, so I was pursuing that. He knew that and thought I would be a good fit. The church would be a good fit. And
Sure.
I think I spent a year and a half there. So about the
Okay.
first 7, 8 months. Yeah, it was great. It was great.
So had you been able to heal, like, were you be able to do anything that healed from that previous experience? I mean, because that's pretty rough, as far as your first pastorate, or did you just jump into the new one thinking just
I
be in ministry, that'll be the healing?
jumped into the new thinking this would heal. This would
Okay.
be the ministry healing.
Yeah, because I see
Not
that a lot.
realizing, not realizing, hey, I'm bringing that wounded shepherd mentality with me, the
Sure.
distrust, right?
Okay.
Getting into a meeting situation where I'm feeling cornered.
Yeah, I can see you have a little, I call it post-traumatic spiritual stress disorder, where,
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
having
I like
meetings
that.
are a little bit difficult for you because you had one and you got clocked in the back of the head.
Yeah, so
So we don't realize that we deal with some of that moving into new places.
it began a habit that I still have today. And I took my daughter to lunch Monday. No, yeah, Monday. I took my daughter
Okay.
out to lunch on Monday, and we're sitting in the restaurant, and she's laughing at me the whole time. One, because she broke my thumb. Two, she's telling me, she's like, Dad, stop looking for an exit. And I went, hey, I wonder how often do I do that? Do I go somewhere and I sit and I'm looking for an exit? And I realized that that part of me is from way back in 1994. I keep my eyes, I keep everyone in front of me. I keep the wall behind me so that no one's ever behind me. And as soon as someone comes behind me, I immediately turn to make sure that I got that person in view. And it's my daughter that made me realize I do that. So I go into this new church, not realizing that this is the baggage I'm bringing with me,
Yeah.
right? The scar is still fresh,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was charged with growing a youth ministry from 25, 30 kids to match the church. And this church is running 2,000 people on a Sunday, but not all the kids are actively involved in youth ministry.
Right. So they want to see results pretty quick.
Yeah. I don't know if it was inadvertently or was it intentionally, but I got blamed for the previous guy's mistakes. So about a year and a half into it, I'm in the office, and the young lady who's the church receptionist, she's a great friend of our family today. I come downstairs from my upstairs office, ask for a ream of paper. She tells me no, and I'm like, I gotta have it. I gotta put my Bible study together for tomorrow night. It's Tuesday. She tells me no. I don't know that she's been ordered to tell us no because we're rationing paper.
So you didn't get the why. You just,
So I didn't get the why, I just got the no.
yeah.
Me being me, I decided to go back up to my office and wait till she was at lunch.
And you go get the paper.
And then I go get the paper. I put my code in the copier. I started running my copies.
Yeah.
Pastor comes down. He walks past me. He speaks, looks, says nothing, walks right into God, I forgot the guy's title. I'm going to say business manager because I can't remember
Like an
his title.
executive pastor.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And walks into his office, and all I hear is yelling coming out of that office. What I didn't know is that they were both yelling at each other about me. I get
Over paper.
over paper. I get called into the office, and I'm terminated
Just
for
immediately.
theft. Immediately, I'm terminated for theft.
Make it make sense.
I
mean,
can't.
I mean, we can sit here and analyze it as we often do. Like it's a not a newbie mistake, but it's a young mistake of
Sure.
rather than just going and getting it. It's calling the executive pastor and go, hey, why can I not get paper? Like,
Right.
That's things you have to learn as a leader, right?
Right.
But rather than, I mean, we always look back at what should have happened. The pastor should have called and said, hey, one, they should have communicated the rationing of the paper.
Sure.
But two, hey, sweet, next time, don't just come get it on your own. Talk to you, teach to it. Why is something like that just an instant fatal flaw?
To this day, I don't know. Right. So that I leave and join a couple of churches, still have the idea that, hey, I want to be in full-time ministry. I want to work for the Lord. I want to pastor. I want to do all these things.
Right. So did they give you like any severance? Did they give you any
Absolutely
help?
not.
They were just like,
Absolutely not.
clean out your office today. No explanation, no recourse.
Pretty much.
Nothing
Pretty
for you
much.
to. They're just like,
Pretty much. You're done. Get out.
wow.
Yeah. A few years pass. I now have the associate's degree. I didn't graduate with my bachelor's degree. My wife and I got married, and all of a sudden, this church that fires me brings me back, but not on staff. I'm not allowed to come back. I'm allowed to use my ministry gifts and talents, but I am never going to be on staff. But guess what I'm called back to do?
Youth ministry?
Now I'm the young adult pastor,
But they won't pay you.
but they won't pay me. They'll
Same
use me.
same pastor?
Same pastor. In fact, he's still there today. Same pastor, same kids.
Any explanation?
In a year and a half that I was there, the Lord actually did bless us to grow that youth ministry to match the size of the church as a congregation. Adults would go in and have what they called adult church,
Sure.
and the youth would gather in the gymnasium or one of the classrooms and have youth church.
Uh-huh.
And, it grew.
Yeah.
And it began to shrink while I was gone. So all those kids began to scatter. And the guy that they hired in my place never connected at a family level with the families and the kids. And even though I'm now 1,000 miles away, I'm still in touch with lots of those kids. Right?
Sure.
I'm watching them now become mothers and fathers and husbands and wives.
Absolutely. So they saw that loss.
They saw that loss and tried to get it back, but I think, I'm not for sure, but I think that there was this idea that anybody who preached or taught as well as the pastor or on equal planes with the pastor was a threat to the pastor. And the fact that when they brought me back, I'm now pursuing a master's degree. And I think that particular pursuit brought out his inadequacies, right? Because that cycle that started with me, I found out later, it didn't start with me. I was a link in that cycle. There were people
others
before me.
you.
Yeah.
So
And there's been people after me.
Yeah. So be successful, but if you're too successful, then you're a threat.
Then you're a threat.
And then you have to go.
And you got to go.
So if that was the case, though, why go back?
Well,
even as a volunteer? I mean,
so it was going back that I learned all of this, right? But it was going back that I learned more about myself. And here's what I've learned, and it's even true in the ministry at Freedom on the Inside. That I really have learned to trust the Lord. That's number one. I've really learned to trust the Lord. Number two, I've learned how to forgive because of the drama that I've gone through, right? This is going to sound strange. Some wounds are self-inflicted.
Okay, explain that.
Even when they're inflicted by others.
That's a really interesting statement. I think I know where you're going with it. I like it.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So some wounds are self-inflicted even when they're inflicted by others by just the way we handle things.
Okay.
So I agree with you that had I seen the memo, that what I should have done was, instead of just going to take a pack of paper, was just ask the executive pastor, can I get a pack of paper?
Sure.
Can I get a ream of paper? Here's what it's for.
So even though they're weak in the communication, you can be the better man. You can communicate. It's a learning curve.
It's a learning curve. So I've learned from that to over communicate. And if I had, the ideal staff that I would like, and when I have it, I do over communicate.
Sure.
Right. Want you to know what's going on.
Right.
Versus being caught off guard or blindsided.
Sure.
So I learned communication is important in any organization.
Sure.
Number one. Number two, I've learned it's okay to ask questions. Instead of just thinking, hey, I'm on staff, I have a right to this paper, it is okay for me to go, wait, why can't I get this? I don't need to know that you're hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
I just need to know why I can't get something. And if you say at this point, we can't do that, I'm okay with it. Sure. I just need to know the whys.
Sure.
I learned a third thing And this is where the self-inflicted comes in.
Uh-huh.
It is all about my attitude and how I perceive things. If I perceive you telling me no as an attack on me, the person,
Right.
then I've learned this enough about myself that I can just develop this resentment, which is why I need to know the whys, right?
Sure.
So you asked the question, why go back? Well, I went back, one, because I really love that church. It's strange as it sounds. It is joining that church shortly after being attacked by the landlord's brother
Mhm.
that group of people showed me what a loving church congregation could be
In spite of the decisions of the
in
pastor.
spite of the decisions of the pastor. My
Mm.
wife is a child of that church. She grew up in that church,
Sure.
right? And a few years ago, my wife and I went home to bury my mother. It was people from that church who let us stay with them, met with us, prayed with us, supported me through preaching my mother's eulogy. That pastor's wife, if I pick up my phone and call her right now, she will answer. While he never became a surrogate father, she became a surrogate mother to both me and my wife, which is
Yeah, because I mean, how do you sit under that?
right.
How do you rest under that? Because you've got the guy that hurt you,
Mm-hmm.
but you're
Mm-hmm.
getting support from
His wife.
his wife.
Yeah.
Like, how do you navigate? How do you struggle with that in your mind of not still wanting to be angry at him, but receiving that support from immediately around him?
Let me be honest, still being angry with him. One of the elders at that church became like my uncle. And
Sure,
so there are times where I'll say, "Yeah, I talked to my uncle today." Well, that's the guy I'm talking about.
that's the guy
I'm
you're
talking about
talking.
I'm talking about this elder from that church because
Sure,
my biological uncles are all deceased. But this guy,
he's the go-to.
man, he's the guy.
Yeah,
I every major life decision I have made in the past 20 years, this guy's helped me navigate.
sure.
To the point where I can honestly admit that I think what happens is the rejection I felt at the first church,
Uh huh.
being clocked in the head, right?
Sure. Yeah.
That rejection, then this rejection at this church. They're two separate things, but they're both inflicted wounds.
Sure.
One I was able to heal from quickly, the first one. The second one, the reason I don't think I've healed from that, and I'm being honest, I don't think
Sure.
I've healed from that is because I know in my heart there's no way to reconcile that.
How do you I hear that a lot in those unreconcilable things. How do you find peace in that in the healing process? Because there's no way to categorize it, reconcile it, find any really meaning in it. It's just empty of all meaning and purpose.
Well, what I had to do was it goes back to learning how to trust God. I had to learn that pastor's shortcomings 20 some years later, still being able to talk to people, other men that he's hurt like me.
Sure.
I've had to decide that his shortcomings, his insecurities, his frailties
Mhm.
cannot become mine. And I have just in this way, I have just been blessed because the Lord brought men in my life who affirmed my ministry and affirmed me in my education, affirmed me in my walk and the
Yeah.
work that I do now. Everything that I thought I wanted from that guy, I got from these men around me. And so when we're the walking wounded, right? What we're really scared of, whether we verbalize it or not, whether we know it or not, we're scared of the continued wounding
What do you mean by that?
because somewhere, sometime along the lines, you're going to meet somebody. I'm going to sound charismatic for a moment.
I'll
You know
forgive you.
how I feel about that. Instead of speaking life into you,
Mhm.
they're going to constantly tell you what you can't do. I have that guy in my life today. There's a guy in my life who constantly says to me, "You're no good at A." You're no good at A. And so I had to just reconcile and realize that this guy doesn't know me
Mm,
and he's not really trying to get to know me. But when people take the time to get to know you in your woundedness and you are okay with them seeing your vulnerabilities and allowing the Lord to use them to mend and to heal your vulnerabilities, all of a sudden you become stronger than you realize.
wow.
As a practitioner of martial arts, we train the same skills over and over and over and over and over. And a black belt is just a white belt with years of training,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I've watched people in the Olympics, and Taekwondo is what I'm talking about. So I've
Sure.
watched people in the Olympics win gold, silver, and bronze medals doing the same kicks that white belts do. They just have years of training, years of practice, and they know exactly when to throw that kick.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And for me, what I've had to learn over the years after both of these scenarios was how to allow people to speak life into me, to affirm
Mm,
what they see, knowing that I may not be exactly what they're seeing, right? This guy who I call my uncle has no theological training of other than a bachelor's degree,
right.
is self-taught in Greek, but he'll call me and I'll call him and say, what you're reading.
Sure.
And we'll read something together and discuss it over coffee every Saturday morning, kind of like what we're doing right here.
Yeah.
And the Lord allowed him and 3 or 4 other men along my journey to just, I mean, they came at the right time, right?
Yeah.
So my dad was gone. I tell the guys in our program that I was a daddy's boy.
Yeah.
Everywhere my dad went, I went. And when dad died, I felt lost.
Sure.
Going through all of this, I couldn't pick up the phone. I couldn't go to the house and talk to my dad. But
Yeah.
God put godly pastors, one I met in the grocery store, one I met because I gave his wife the one finger salute driving down the street.
How'd that work for you?
Beautifully,
Wow.
beautifully. They became, I am who I am today because of those people.
Rather than hating you for your outbursts that comes from the hurt,
Right. They
they
loved
loved you.
me out of it. They loved me out of it.
Wow.
And all that was required or asked was that I reciprocate that love to others,
Wow.
which is what I try to do at Jefferson City Correctional Center.
Sure.
And some men, they recognize it, they see it, they get it. Some of the men, they push away from it, right? So I've in the process of being hurt, hit in the head, suffer migraines ever since. I don't want to sound cliche-ish, but there is beauty from the ashes.
Well, I think you captured that because, and kind of gets to a question I was about to get to, but you got to, is that I find a lot in these stories, there are some who just become toxic leaders. And I don't doubt for a second this pastor you speak of, at some point in his ministry, he was hurt and he became a toxic leader who hurt others.
Right.
Yet with your story, you allowed people to enter into the hurt, love you through it in spite of it, sit in the ashes with you. Is that what made the difference between bringing beauty out of the ashes or you becoming a toxic leader?
Absolutely. Had the Lord not tenderized my heart, I could have become as toxic as the brother who hit me in the head, as toxic as the pastor who fired me over a pack of paper. And let's just be honest, it wasn't the paper.
Oh, absolutely.
It wasn't the paper.
Yeah.
It is real easy to allow our humanness and our frailties to take over and to decide that everybody's like the brother or everybody's like the pastor. If that pastor called me today, if I was in Houston, because clearly he's not going to call me, but if I was in Houston and he
Sure.
called me today and he said, hey, this is what I need. Can you help? I'd help. Knowing everything that I know, I would still help
Wow.
because that's who I became.
Right.
Right. It's not always easy, right? Wanting to be the bigger man sometimes, no pun intended. I want to be the small guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes
I'll leave that one alone. I'm just going to
I
let
set
that
you
one.
up really good for that.
I know,
I
I know.
set you up
But
for it.
I've got way too much respect for you that I'm just not going to knock that one out of the park.
I gave you an
I
alley-oop,
know.
man. You should have taken it.
Yeah, it was right there, but I'll leave it alone.
It's not always easy, right? And I've had an experience here in Missouri. I've had two that had I not had the prior experiences, the two experiences here in Missouri could have become toxic. I recognize toxic leadership and I try to navigate it. You can't always help people see their toxicity, but we have to learn how to navigate it specifically when
Sure.
they're the pastor, the leader, the whatever, right?
Sure.
My goal with telling this story or stories today
Sure.
is that people would come to recognize that there is healing on the other side. We just have to allow it to happen.
How do you do that? How do you open that gate?
First, I had to acknowledge that pastor hurt me. That's number one. Once I found out everything that was going on,
Sure.
I had to come to grips with it, that as I grew in knowledge, he felt threatened. I had to come to grips with as I teach our students, as I teach my students in preaching, that when God created you, he created you unique. Scripture says, fearfully and wonderfully made. We are unique. And as you find your voice in preaching, God wants to use your authentic voice, whatever that voice sounds like, right? And as I discovered who I was in Christ, as I discovered who I was in ministry, and I realized that because I know who I am and I'm comfortable in my skin, that makes some toxic leaders threaten.
Sure.
That threatens them, right?
Sure.
So we have to recognize the more comfortable you are in who you are, that toxicity, it's like cream. It rises to the top and it's never going to be okay. It's always going to lash out.
Sure.
So I had to recognize that. Number two, what happens when you can't remove yourself from that situation? Or in my case, you get invited back in.
Yeah.
So to use an old phrase, going in the second time, I went in with my eyes wide shut. Right? So I knew what I was getting. I knew what was going to happen.
Sure.
So this time I moved differently.
Yeah.
Right? I would ask, hey, is it okay if I say these words? If it's okay if I recommend this book?
You learn to read or lead around it.
I learned to lead around. And when it wasn't okay, I learned how to do it differently, right?
Find a different way to the same.
Find a different way.
Same goal.
Find a different way to the same goal. And so I am able to look today, see that church today, see who that pastor has surrounded himself with today. And to be honest, it is not a bunch of guys like us.
Sure.
It's a bunch of guys where he really and truly looks like the cream of the crop.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And we all know the problem with that ministry is that when he's gone,
it's already starting to happen. It is already starting to happen. That thing is it's on the downward arc. It's on the down arc. It's plateaued. And because he's not really trying to keep it going any further, when he's gone, it's gone.
It's over.
Yeah. Because what's going to happen is he's left a bunch of wounded leaders behind in his wake. And those guys are probably going to fight to become the next toxic voice.
Yeah. So many questions, so many different directions. I mean, we're coming up on the 50-minute mark of this short story. Yes, I emphasized that on purpose. I picked it up later. I didn't hit the softball, but I did hit another one.
Yeah. You still got a ground rule double.
Listen, I'm not afraid to tell the listeners that the reason I love teaching at the program is because I find that one person that I feel tall around, and that's it. There's nobody else in my life that fits that, so I appreciate that.
Well, amen. I'm glad I can make you look tall.
Right, I appreciate that. As a brother, I love it. So, those that are listening that because it's going to baffle the listeners, the going back.
Yeah.
That's going to baffle them. Why would you do that? That defies all reason. Looking back at what you know now, was that the pinnacle of the healing, or not the pinnacle of the healing process? Was that the start of the healing process
I think
of
it
making
was.
that decision?
I think it was it was still toxic. Don't get it wrong.
Sure, sure.
It was still toxic. But I
Yeah.
think it was okay, I'm from Texas, so let me just talk the way I talk. There are times in Texas you can
Uh-huh.
be down in Galveston and you'll see bull sharks. They're swimming all over the place. And Houston is so close that you can be somewhere in one of the tributaries in the little lakes and streams that are all over Texas. And guess what you'll
Yeah.
find? You'll
You're
find
going to
bull
find a bull
sharks
shark. Sure.
because bull sharks can something about their body, the way God designed them, that they can be in salt water and they can be in fresh water.
Sure.
And I think that this is going to sound strange, but going back, right, kind of made me a bull shark. I can swim in salt water. I can swim amongst the toxicity. I've learned how to navigate it. I've learned when to push back, how to push back, and when not
Mhm.
to.
Sure.
Right? But then I've also learned how to swim in the fresh water and
Sure.
how to enjoy the peace and the love that comes from being in fresh water,
Oh, that's great.
right?
Great illustration.
And in both, the reality of it is, in both scenarios, in both bodies of water, there's
Uh-huh.
healing if we allow it to happen.
Wow.
One of the things I think that helped me heal when I went back was I went back with no expectations.
Sure.
I was free.
Mhm.
By this time, I'm a school teacher. I'm working with special needs kids. I'm okay financially. I
Yeah.
don't need anything from him. Now, did I want something? I think to this day, if he came along and said, "Hey, I see you," I
Mm.
think that's what I want, right? But I don't expect it.
And your healing is not defined by it.
No, it's not. And I don't expect the "Can you forgive me?" I don't expect
Wow.
him, even if he ever heard this podcast, I don't expect him to see his toxicity.
You
All
don't
he's
need that.
I don't need that. All I want in my life, as I have less days ahead of me than I do behind me, what I
Mhm.
want is to do what the men who have helped me heal have charged me to do. And that is spread that on to others.
To be that.
Yeah.
You have two paths set out in front of you.
Yeah.
You can be the toxic, you can be the negative, or you can take what you learned from those guys who sat in the ashes with you and
Yeah.
become one of those.
Yes. Which is why I teach in a prison, because that's what I'm trying to do.
Sure.
I am trying
Sure.
to pass that on. And there are times where we see the guys, in case people don't understand what I'm saying, you want to see broken,
Sure.
it's in prison.
Absolutely.
We tend to think that everybody in prison is there, they deserve whatever the reason that they've come to prison, I don't care.
Right. But there's
They're people and they're broken.
sure.
And and not everybody comes from a broken family,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we've seen that.
We've seen that. Some men come from a two-parent home. Some people come from a middle-class background, but something caused them to end up in prison. Whatever choices they made, they're broken. And then when they get to prison, they get broken down even more, both by inmates and both by the staff. Our ministry is to come alongside them and become that healing salve, that balm in Gilead, so to speak, to mend this sin-sick soul, right?
Sure.
Frederick Douglass once said that it is easier to raise boys than to mend men, but God's in the mending business.
Sure. 100%.
And I have watched over the last 13, now 14 years, God truly transform incarcerated men
Mm,
from broken to restored. And that's what this Wounded Leadership podcast is all about. It's about
100%.
taking leaders who've been wounded
Yeah.
and guiding them into restoration.
So how do you encourage there's guys, leaders out there, the ones that are listening, catching this podcast, catching this story. How do you help them tell their story to put that out there, to find those guys that sit in the ashes with them? How do you encourage them to be healing pastors?
Two things, I think, for those of us who are wounded. Share your wounds. Think of it this way. You break your thumb. The only way to know that your thumb is broken is to have someone look at your thumb, and they put your thumb under x-ray and see the broken, and they tell you how to mend that broken, right? Galatians, I think it is. It's in Galatians. I want to say 6. I don't have my Bible next to me, and I'm sorry.
Sure.
Paul says that those who are, I'm paraphrasing, Paul says that those who are spiritual restore such a one. Well, that's the mending of a broken bone. We have to acknowledge that the bone is broken. Society now tells us that empathy is a bad thing. New Testament constantly tells us, well, feeling compassion on them.
Yeah.
Jesus performed a miracle. Feeling compassion on them. Jesus healed. Feeling compassion. The second thing, I think the first thing is we have to acknowledge we've been hurt.
Sure.
The second thing is we have to resolve not to hurt back, right? The reason hazing continues in the military, in fraternities all across the country, or organizations or whatever, is because, well, I was hurt. I was hazed. Now it's my turn.
Yeah. My turn to be on top.
I'm top
I'm gonna
dog
fight
now.
back.
I'm gonna fight
Yeah.
back. Well, we have to decide not to do that.
We're not going to be that way anymore.
We're not gonna do that anymore.
Wow.
And you and I both know over the past decade, we've heard all the stories of toxic leadership. We've watched them rise. We've watched them fall. We've watched them rise again, and we're still hearing the toxicity, right?
Sure. Yeah. It's changing a culture.
It's changing a culture. So what we have to do is those two things. One, acknowledge that the hurt exists. And two, resolve not to hurt others the way we've been hurt.
It's a common phrase at least that I use in biblical counseling: hurt people.
That's right.
Healing people, heal people.
That's right.
And
Healing
it really
people, heal
is
people.
creating a culture of healing.
Yes. You may not know all the counseling jargon. You may not even be a biblical counselor.
But you can sit in the ashes with somebody.
You can sit in the ashes with somebody. My mom died.
Wow.
My mom died 3 years ago. I got that phone call while teaching a class in the Jefferson City Correctional Center. And it is guys in that first cohort that you know who I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
That they closed the door to the classroom. They sat me down and they made sure that I was okay before I could leave. What did we do in that time? We prayed, we talked, and the moment I was able to go, I think I can drive now. They let me go.
Wow.
I drove home. I called my sister.
Prison.
In a prison. Now contrast that with the story that I told you.
Yeah.
I have still not heard from that pastor. But I did hear from his wife.
Wow.
Yeah. So you find that healing. To find, if there's a third thing that I would say be on the lookout for God's healing touch, because it's all around you. You just have to be open to it.
Open your eyes to see it.
Yeah.
Wow. Every time I've done one of these stories, interviews, whatever we want to call it, it always feels open-ended. It always feels like there's more to cover, but we find ourselves out of time. I can't wait till this episode launches. Roderick, thank you for telling your story. You're a great friend. You make me feel taller every day.
You're a giant, brother. You're a giant.
And I can't wait till you get your doctorate, where I can be the first to call you Dr. Pepper. Anyway, moving on. Roderick, thank you for sharing your story. Some of those that remember those commercials will understand what that means. I will not explain it. Thank you for sharing your story. I hope this encourages others to share their story. If this story resonates with you and you're listening to this podcast, go to woundedleadership.com. There's a tab that says Tell Your Story. Fill that out. It'll send it to myself, my personal email. I will look at that, and possibly one of those stories can be even on this podcast. Roderick, thank you for sharing your story. I know for a fact this is going to bring healing to somebody that's listening. So thank you for that. This has been Wounded Leadership Stories from the Wounded. Brother, I love you. And I'm so glad I'm so glad you shared your story.
Appreciate it. Thank you for
All
having
right,
me.
man. Talk to you soon. Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Wounded Leadership Podcast, Stories from the Wounded. We hope today's conversation has given you valuable insight into how vulnerability and resilience work to shape truly authentic leadership. Remember, our wounds don't define us. Every scar tells a story of survival, and every setback creates an opportunity for extraordinary growth. If today's episode resonated with you, please visit us at woundedleadership.com, where you're going to find resources, community forums, opportunities to share your own leadership journey. I also invite you to subscribe, rate, review this podcast on your favorite platform. Your support helps us to reach more leaders who might be struggling in silence. Till next time, this is Dr. Matthew Tanner reminding you that your wounds can become your greatest source of wisdom, connection, and strength. It's the Wounded Leadership Podcast, transforming wounds into wisdom, one story at a time.